Hello, my name is Saturnastra. Chapter 36. Getting used to it. But now the elves are getting used to a he, and his presence has helped get rid of the human hunter's problem. Varan Cupidon had left to go home with the other elves, and he amused himself by counting with his finger. When he was done, he circled around the lake 3 times, and for twice clockwise and once counterclockwise, and then he nodded his stretch out of his limbs. And he heard a noise behind him, which forced him to turn around, and 6 arrows had been shot all around, making a net. And the 6 weapons used on he were very similar to the design of the polybolos, and this variety could repeatedly fire 10 arrow bolts, and his clockwork gear powered a chain which loaded any new bow by cracking the handle. Since it was a well-oiled machine, each bolt was shot once every 3 seconds, and these had been rammed to allow it to throw a meter-long bolt with chains attached to the back. And instead of feathers, the back was flat with a slight amount of gunpowder inside. As it flew out, the arrow tips passed through the chain which struck to the middle section of the bow, and these were stored in a long rectangular box with a sophisticated clockwork mechanism. And the chains on the tip of the bows were made of refractory metals like tungsten, radium, and niobium. And these metals were normally used by smiths when making weapons, and in this case they were making arms to hunt dragons. And then it was supposed to keep the dragon in place, and since he was in the middle of the forest, the trees helped the catapult arrows to stay in place. When the arrows were shot, he had lowered himself enough for him to miss, and he was still encaged within him. And for the second volley there came the usual lightning running through the metals, and normally lightning would taser dragons, and he simply raised his head and giggled as he felt the currents coursing through his veins. And he took one of the chains and he started eating it, and the dragon hunters after his head did not expect this, and while eating the chain he started counting with his left hand again. And he slashed the ground with his tail and swept out a cloud of dust and leaves and rocks around him. And guessing where he was going to reappear, we flew over to the hunter, and based on the tragic and comedy mask we recognized him as the dragon hunters Lucinda and Malabar. They were accompanied by 20 men who had helped set up the trap, and Lucinda was yelling at Malabar. I knew this was a bad idea. There's a high bounty on his head, so let's get back to work, answered Malabar, and he added, we should have the others pull back and watch for the beast's next move. As the men started withdrawing, he reappeared in the middle of the group, and he had gingerly landed on top of a few trees, and he said to the group, I chose not to fight due to my warm personality, and look at warm enemies not so hot. Said Lucinda, not amused by the weird run. This change of events was not unusual, and Lucinda tripped on a thin wire which shot over more tracks, and a rain of arrows in the net, and the dragon lance was shot like a harpoon, and it missed. And he was in the middle of one of the openings of the trap, and the convenient opening was placed by a he who tampered with all of the traps while they were busy looking elsewhere. Sighing, he said, I recognize you two. You are Lucinda and Malabar on these pet elves. We come to bring you into our fold, and after the stone you put in our king cannot allow you to run free anymore, exclaimed Lucinda in a serious tone. Everyone keeps blaming me for everything, said he, pouting. Well, sorry to break the news to you, but you are kind of technically responsible for what happened, since it was your liquor that caused Mulder to lose his senses. He stretched his arms and he breathed twice, and then he pointed at his chest and said, here. Lucinda hesitated, but she eventually drove her conscious sword into his chest, and the sword was designed to pierce dragon hearts when they were within close range, and the twin was made of diamond. It was extremely sharp, and when she drew the sword out, it was corroded, and only half a portion of the blade was intact, and he scratched his chest before laughing. The blade had only given him a slight flesh wound, and as was his habit, he laughed it up whenever he was injured. And standing enough force, he looked at Lucinda in the eyes, and she was slowly stepping back, and he said, if Luz could kill, it would have been me instead of you. And hey, Lucinda, what did you kill? And he looked around and he threw dust in their faces using his hind legs, and before returning to the lake, he looked at the dragon with a corner of his eyes before huffing. When he laughed, Malabar asked Lucinda, what was the plan now, Sid? The duo continued talking while they searched for their men, and the higher hand had bolted the moment that the dragon had gotten a little too close. And we lost interest in the conversation, so we joined a heat. And from time to time, one of our stragglers would check up on the dragon hunter to see if they had left the forest. And when we saw he was making quick work of the chains. Let's not forget that as a dragon, he likes to eat metal too. Pidona and her hunting party had completed their morning rounds, and as usual, they brought a portion of the kill to a heat. And with the help of the two of us, Pidona had brought a heat, an elk, and a few squirrels, 2 pigeons, and 4 rabbits. And he started eating the chains and eagerly devoured the freshly killed meat. And Pidona took hold of one of the chains and asked, "Do you mind if we keep some of these chains and the arrows too?" And he did not say anything. He was too focused on his meal to pay them any attention. And he watched Pidona and her one companion spray a few arrows and chains from the tree. And this required the use of a sledgehammer to dislodge the arrows. And at the time, only the chains were salvageable, since the catapult arrows tip had penetrated the bark of the tree too deeply. And after 20 minutes, Pidona and the 2 other elves were grafting chains from head to toe, and by now he had finished eating the elk, bones and all, and the smaller animals had been devoured in one single bite. And he took one of the remaining chains, and instead of eating it, he followed it towards a tree, and he pulled at it up and down until he dislodged it from the tree, and then he dragged the chain and formed a pile, and he did the same with the other chains. From the corner of his eye, he saw the humans taking their siege weapons, and the humans would want to take the chains as well, but they were dissuaded from taking them when they saw that he was lying on top of them. And counting the losses, the humans and the dragon hunters lasted forward for the time being. A half hour later, the sky grew dark, and thin drops of water began to fall on the ground, and suddenly a hail the size of a watermelon fell on his head. Ouch, he yelled. And the hail which followed was pea-sized, and a rabbit huddled under his wings. And other nearby tiny forest dwellers did the same, and they were not hiding from the rain per se, rather they were cowering from the barking of the approaching hunting dogs. And Pidona approached with her hunting girl, and she was carrying an umbrella made of leather, and by now you may have guessed that she was simply fascinated with the dragon ahead, as it often happens with curious maidens, and she had always shown an affinity towards animals, and unlike her other brethren who employed real hunting dogs, Pidona had a black Russian terrier. And these terriers were among the largest dog breeds in existence. He was about 6 years old, and the terrier had his fur groomed and he smelled like lavender. And he was smart and sensitive, and he used to growl at him whenever he saw him pass, and as of now the terrier had gotten used to the dragon. And as was the open habit, all of the hunting dogs had something and repeated syllable name, and all of the dogs were called something followed by 9. And Pidona had named her curse Kunine. Like the rest of her kind, Kuna had strong bones and powerful muscles, and he also had a great strength and endurance, and his head hair was long, making his eyes almost invisible. And he was also a good swimmer and never got sick, and Kuna lay down beside his left wing, and the small craters bolted the second that Kuna sat beside him, if for some reason Kuna whimpered. And just out of curiosity, did you ever find your mate? Asked Pidona. Yes, I found her, and then I returned home, and then I continued my journey. Said that he flapping his wings to brush off his tail. But now the hills were becoming smaller. Pidona continued with her interrogation, without he just simply giving monosyllable responses that rarely matched the question. He'd eventually jumped to illustrate his boredom, then again he had just eaten a big meal, so he was probably sleepy. Pidona shifted her weight and from her heels to the front of her foot twice, and looking left and right, she drew nearer he. And then she whispered, "I know a great necromancer," and then he saw the why. And this response made Pidona laugh because she imagined that he couldn't possibly know anyone, he being a dragon being hunted down by humans. And he laid his head down and he closed his eyes, and Pidona took this as a cue to leave, and she made a gesture to Kuna to follow. Kuna whimpered and stayed beside him. And he rested his head on his hand, and he looked up suddenly, and he started growling, and Pidona sighed and she left her dog behind. Around us, a scene mist entered the forest, and Kuna's ears picked up, and he started looking about like a frightened little cur. And then he started growling before getting up and barking, and he heard a commotion, but only bothered to open his left eye. And we craned our ears to listen, and we finally heard the sound of our horseshoes. And we flew in the direction of the sound but saw nothing, and the sound was followed by the howling and barking of the dogs. And we looked at and saw, since we saw nothing, we looked around, but all our eyes saw nothing, only darkness staring back at us. The days passed. Oh yeah, that's the end of that chapter. Bye bye and God bless.